Welcome to Sleep Story Channel, your gateway to peaceful sleep. Drift into a world of tranquility with our soothing bedtime stories, crafted to help you unwind, relax, and fall asleep effortlessly. Whether it's a gentle tale, a calming narrative, or a whispered lullaby, our stories will guide you into a deep and restful slumber. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and let your mind wander into the realm of dreams. Sweet dreams and good night. The Whispering Fog. The village of Ravenshire was nestled between rolling hills and a vast, endless forest. Few travelers ventured into its quiet streets, and even fewer dared to explore the thick fog that descended upon it every night. The fog had always been there, as far back as the oldest villagers could remember. It wasn't just mist, it whispered. No one knew when the whispers had started. Some claimed it had always been part of the village's existence, while others believed it was the curse of an old sorcerer who once lived on the outskirts. Regardless of the origin, one fact remained unchanged. When the fog rolled in, the villagers locked their doors and whispered prayers. Nathaniel Gray was a writer searching for his next novel's inspiration. He had heard of Ravenshire from an old book and was drawn to its mystery. Upon arriving at the village inn, he noticed the unease in the innkeeper's eyes as she handed him the key. "You'll want to be inside before dark," she warned. "The fog is coming." Nathaniel dismissed it as local superstition. He had spent years chasing ghost stories, but he had never encountered anything truly unexplainable. That night, he left his window slightly open, waiting for the fog. He expected nothing but silence. But when the clock struck midnight, he heard it. The whispers. They were faint at first, like the wind rustling through leaves. Then they became voices, distinct yet incomprehensible. Nathaniel strained to listen, jotting down phrases that made no sense. He wanted to see the fog up close, to feel its presence. Against all warnings, he stepped outside. The air was thick, damp, and oddly warm. The fog swirled around his feet, shifting as though it had a mind of its own. The whispers grew louder. Suddenly, a shape formed in the mist. A tall figure, featureless except for glowing eyes. Nathaniel stumbled back, heart pounding. The figure didn't move, but the whispers turned to words, clear and chilling. "Leave while you can." He ran back inside, slamming the door shut. The whispers persisted until dawn, then faded as the sun rose. When he told the innkeeper, she shook her head. "You saw them." "Who are they?" Nathaniel demanded. "They were once like us," she said. "Curious, foolish. They stayed too long in the fog." Nathaniel should have left, but curiosity held him captive. The next night, he ventured deeper into the mist. The figures emerged again, their voices more insistent. "Turn back," they pleaded. "Do not become one of us." But Nathaniel couldn't turn back now. He pressed forward until he reached the heart of the fog, where time and space seemed to blur. Then he saw it, a doorway, ancient and pulsating with a dull light. Something beyond it whispered his name. A terrible realization struck him. This was why the fog whispered. It called to the curious, the unwary, the ones who thought they were different. The doorway was a trap, a prison for those who entered. Nathaniel turned to flee, but the fog had thickened. The figures reached out, their touch cold as ice. "We warned you," they murmured. With the last of his strength, Nathaniel broke free and ran. He burst into the village, gasping for breath. The villagers found him at dawn, collapsed outside the inn. When he woke, he could no longer hear the whispers, but the fog still came every night, searching for another soul to claim. And deep in the mist, the figures waited, whispering his name. Whisper. The next story. The Eternal Night. In the quiet town of Eldermere, nestled between shadowed hills and the silver coast, the night had always lingered a little too long. The townspeople had learned to live with the darkness, adjusting their clocks and habits to its strange, unyielding rhythm. Every evening, the sky turned to ink, and the stars flickered like dying embers, casting eerie reflections on the cobblestone streets. At the heart of Eldermere stood the ancient Blackthorn Manor, an imposing estate with a storied past. It had been abandoned for decades, yet the townsfolk swore they saw candlelight flickering in its windows. It was said that the house was cursed, trapped in an endless loop of midnight, a place where time stood still. Nathaniel Ward, a historian with a penchant for the supernatural, arrived in Eldermere on a cold autumn evening. He had spent years chasing myths and legends, always hoping to uncover the truth hidden beneath the stories. When he heard whispers of the eternal night that clung to the town, he knew he had found his next mystery. The townsfolk were reluctant to speak of Blackthorn Manor. Some glanced away when Nathaniel inquired about it, while others murmured warnings under their breath. But curiosity was a powerful force, and it drew him toward the forbidden estate like a moth to a flame. On the first night, he stood before the manor's iron gates, rusted with age. The house loomed before him, shrouded in mist, its tall windows staring back like hollow eyes. With a deep breath, he pushed open the gate, the creaking echoing through the still air. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of dust and old parchment. Faded portraits lined the halls, their subjects' faces blurred with time. As he stepped further into the house, the grandfather clock in the main hall chimed, despite the fact that its hands had not moved in years. Then he heard it, a whisper, soft and fleeting, like wind through dry leaves. "Welcome, traveler." Nathaniel spun around, but the corridor was empty. His pulse quickened as he pressed on, his lantern casting flickering shadows against the walls. As he reached the grand library, he noticed something strange. The books were pristine, untouched by time. The dust that coated the rest of the house had not reached these shelves. A sudden movement caught his eye. A figure stood by the window, draped in dark robes. The figure turned, revealing a face half hidden in shadow. "You seek answers," the figure said, its voice neither male nor female. "But some doors once open can never be closed." Nathaniel's breath hitched. "Who are you?" "A guardian, a prisoner, a keeper of secrets." The figure's eyes glowed faintly, like embers in the dark. "You have stepped beyond time, Nathaniel Ward. You stand at the edge of the eternal night." A cold dread coiled around him. "What does that mean?" "The night here never ends," the figure murmured. "It stretches beyond the horizon, beyond the stars, and now it knows you." Nathaniel's mind raced. He had heard tales of places where time lost its grip, where reality unraveled, but he had never believed them, until now. He turned to flee, but the shadows had thickened, weaving around him like living tendrils. The whispering grew louder, overlapping voices rising in a symphony of warning and lament. "You must leave before the 12th chime," the figure urged, "or you will never leave at all." Nathaniel bolted, his footsteps echoing through the corridors. The house seemed to shift around him, doors appearing where none had been before, hallways stretching impossibly long. The clock began to chime, slow and deliberate. 1. The walls trembled. The whispering grew frantic. 2. A shadow loomed ahead, its form stretching unnaturally tall. 3. Nathaniel's breath came in gasps as he sprinted toward the exit. 4. 5. 6. The house shuddered. The whispers turned to wails. 7. 8. 9. The front doors came into view, warped but tangible. 10. He lunged forward. 11. A cold hand grazed his shoulder. 12. Darkness swallowed him whole. When Nathaniel awoke, he was lying on the cold cobblestone outside Blackthorn Manor. The sky was a deep shade of purple, on the cusp of dawn. He could still hear the faintest whispers, lingering like an unfinished melody. He had escaped, but the night had marked him, and he knew, wherever he went, the eternal night would follow. The next story. The Silent Meadow. The village of Everlow lay nestled between two great rivers, a place where time seemed to drift like the gentle currents of water. It was a quiet town, where the days passed in a slow, golden haze, and the nights were filled with the sounds of rustling leaves and distant owl calls. Travelers who passed through spoke of a peculiar stillness in Everlow, a kind of peace that seeped into the bones and made the heart feel lighter. Amelia Whitmore had arrived in Everlow seeking rest. A writer by trade, she had spent years chasing deadlines, city noise, and the endless demands of modern life. Her doctor had told her she needed quiet, real, uninterrupted quiet, to settle her restless mind. And so, she had rented a small cottage on the outskirts of the village, where the wildflowers grew tall, and the breeze carried the scent of lavender and rain. Her first nights in Everlow were strange. The silence was not oppressive, but rather it felt like a living thing, wrapping around her like a soft blanket. There was no hum of distant traffic, no murmur of late-night conversations, only the wind sighing through the trees and the occasional hoot of an owl. One evening, as Amelia sat on her porch with a cup of chamomile tea, she noticed something unusual. The meadow before her, which had always seemed ordinary during the day, now shimmered under the moonlight. It was as if the grass and flowers swayed in rhythm with a melody she couldn't hear. The air felt thick with something unseen, something just beyond the reach of her understanding. She stepped off her porch, her bare feet sinking into the cool grass. As she walked deeper into the meadow, a strange sense of weightlessness overcame her. The stars above seemed closer, as if she could reach out and touch them. A gentle hum filled the air, not a sound exactly, but a vibration, a feeling that resonated deep within her chest. Then she saw them. Figures moved through the meadow, their forms light as mist, their movements slow and deliberate. They glowed faintly, their outlines shifting like candle flames in the breeze. Amelia should have felt afraid, but instead, she felt an overwhelming sense of calm. It was as if she had stepped into a dream, a place outside of time, where the worries of the world could not reach. One of the figures turned to her. Though its face was indistinct, she felt as though it was smiling. "You have come far," a voice whispered, though no lips moved. "And you have finally found what you seek." Amelia took a slow breath. "What is this place?" "The Silent Meadow," the voice replied. "A place between waking and dreaming. Only those who seek peace may enter." She felt the words settle in her heart. She had spent so many years running from expectations, from exhaustion, from herself. And yet, here, in this quiet place, she felt lighter than she had in years. The figures moved around her, their presence like a lullaby, soft and soothing. The hum in the air grew warmer, deeper, like a song without words, a melody meant to lull the restless into slumber. Amelia closed her eyes, and for the first time, in as long as she could remember, she let go. She awoke in her cottage, the morning light filtering through the lace curtains. The meadow outside looked the same as it always had, ordinary, untouched. But something inside her had changed. The restless energy that had followed her for years was gone. The world felt softer, as though she had been given permission to breathe. And though she never saw the glowing figures again, every night when she lay in bed, she could still hear the hum of the Silent Meadow, carrying her gently into sleep. The next story. The Dreamweaver Forest. In a land far beyond the reaches of maps and compasses, there lay a forest unlike any other. It was called the Dreamweaver Forest, a place where the air shimmered with soft golden light, and the trees whispered stories and voices no human could hear. The rivers ran as smooth as silk, reflecting not just the sky above, but also the dreams of those who wandered near them. Eleanor had always been different. Since childhood, she had dreamed of places she had never seen, of landscapes too vivid to be imagined. Her grandmother used to say she had a dreamweaver's soul, that she belonged to the hidden world between waking and sleep. But the older she got, the more the world of numbers, schedules, and responsibilities pulled her away from the magic of dreaming. One evening, overwhelmed by the weight of her thoughts, she wandered into the woods behind her home. She walked farther than she had ever dared before, deeper into the trees where the light turned soft and golden. There was something different about the air, lighter, warmer, as if she had stepped into a world that welcomed her. Then she saw it. The trees around her began to glow faintly, their trunks etched with symbols that pulsed like the slow breath of a sleeping giant. A gentle mist curled around her feet, and in the distance, the sound of a soft melody filled the air. She was no longer in the woods, she knew. A figure stepped forward from the golden mist. He was tall, draped in robes the color of twilight, his eyes deep and knowing. "You have crossed into the Dreamweaver Forest," he said, his voice like the hush of a wind through autumn leaves. "Here, all dreams take shape." Eleanor felt no fear, only wonder. "Am I dreaming?" she asked. The figure shook his head. "You are in the space between. Few find their way here, but those who do are meant to." She looked around, the world pulsing with quiet magic. Flowers opened and closed like tiny hearts, their petals glowing with the dreams they carried. The river nearby rippled, showing fleeting images of people in distant lands. sleeping peacefully as their dreams flowed through the water. "What is this place?" she whispered. "This is where dreams are woven," the figure said. "Every night, when the world closes its eyes, the Dreamweavers shape the night's visions, some soft and gentle, others wild and thrilling. And you, Eleanor, have always been able to hear the call of the dream." Eleanor felt something shift inside her, a recognition she had long buried. She remembered the stories her grandmother had told her, the dreams that had always felt more real than waking life. Perhaps she had never truly lost the magic. Perhaps it had only been waiting for her to return. The figure extended a hand. "Would you like to see?" She hesitated only for a moment before stepping forward. The world around her melted into light, and suddenly she was soaring. She drifted above mountains made of clouds, walked through forests of silver leaves, and watched stars being painted onto the sky. Every dream, every vision, every quiet hope and wish was woven here, floating like threads in a vast tapestry of night. Time ceased to exist. Eleanor did not know if she had spent minutes or lifetimes wandering the Dreamweaver Forest, but she felt lighter than she ever had. She had found the place where she belonged, where dreams were not just fleeting illusions, but living things, shaped and nurtured with care. When she finally awoke, she was back in her bed, morning light streaming through her window. But she knew she had not imagined it. The feeling of weightlessness remained, the quiet hum of the dream still in her ears, and when she closed her eyes, she could still see the golden forest waiting for her, just beyond the edge of waking. And so, every night, she returned, letting the Dreamweaver Forest carry her into slumber, knowing that she had finally found her way home.